Though viruses have killed billions of species in the world, their importance in the regulation on life on Earth is astounding. The virus first theory even suggests that, given that viruses are the simplest forms of life we know, all of life might be the offspring of viruses. The very word virus was handed down to us from the Roman Empire, where its meaning was the semen of a man or the venom of a snake simultaneously, a thing of contradiction. Its contradictory nature has been stressed by the scientific community, where the debates of whether it is a live entity or a dead one is still not clear. But what is clear is that there are about 3 into 10 to the power 30 viruses in our oceans alone. Line all of these viruses up side by side, and its length runs a staggering 10 million light years. It's about 100 of our galaxy like the Milky Way lined up, one after the other. Even our genome consists of traces of a large number of viruses. The human genome is a thing of staggering complexity. Its building blocks just 4 molecules: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. Wound up in a symmetrical structure known as a double helix, these repetitious patterns of the 4 molecules that form the recipe for life require about as much space as 3,000 books of Darwin's classic On the Origin of Species. In such genomic sequences of animals, you can also find traces of viruses. Viruses have a small amount of base pairs, only about 8 to 20,000 of them. If the viruses don't cause mutations in the animal species significant enough for the animal to die, the RNA or the DNA of the virus can integrate into the DNA of an animal and survive rather dormantly. If 2 animals share the same viral sequence in their DNA, it tells that the virus should have got inside them when they had a common ancestor. An example of this would be the circovirus, which was culpable for stomach cancer in dogs. Later, we found traces of this virus in the DNA of cats as well as pandas, meaning that the virus infected the common ancestor of these 3 species some millions of years ago. We can see traces of filovirus, a virus of the family of Ebola virus, in the DNA content of human beings, and we can analyze them in other species too and find that the virus is about 35 million years old. It got in when the genus Homo of our species didn't even exist, when all the ape-like creatures fell in the hominid family. An expression of another such virus, which is 25 million years old, remains in the human beings, can be seen in a protein known as syncytin, which is encoded in the retrovirus gene group known as ERBW1 gene. This viral protein is abundantly expressed in the placenta of human beings and helps mediate nutrition transfer from mother to fetus, as well as helps to protect the fetus from the unfettered attack from the mum on the fetus. Thus, the ability to give live births in mammals might have got to do with the fact that the workings of the human genome was changed by a virus. Even our memories, which Ben Howard dubbed to be the best things we ever had, might be there because of a retrovirus. The genome of ARC genes, which are essential in the ability of the brain to store new information and build connection between neurons, is eerily similar to a viral gene known as GAG. Retroviruses such as HIV use the GAG protein to assemble shells called capsids that transport the virus's ability to transfer the genetic material between cells during infection. And it is almost this mechanism that ARC genes in our brain use to learn new things, and its absence has been related with schizophrenia and other mental disorders. Viruses are what are used to fight viral infections. One of the methods that is currently being used in the discovery of the vaccine of coronaviruses is to make its doppelganger and inject it inside human cells. This weaker version of the virus, once inside, triggers appropriate response from the immune system so that people not infected with it already have the immune system on guard when the more potent version of the virus does come around. Besides, viruses have shown tremendous potential in the field of bacterial infections. With the overuse of antibiotics, infectious bacteria are bound to evolve to be resistant to them, in time producing mutations to counter their effects. These bacterial strains that are resistant to antibiotics will lead to close to 10 million deaths by 2050, reports CDC. But phages, that is, the viruses that eat bacteria, themselves can evolve alongside mutating bacteria inside our bodies, making it a perfect tool to avoid possibilities of superbugs. Phages work neatly too. They get inside a bacteria, use its mechanism of multiplication, and then eventually burst them wide open. Phages are equally important in the regulation of the marine environment. By keeping the number of microbes in check, they help to control the population of phytoplankton, which is responsible for about half of the world's oxygen. By releasing its DNA into the bacteria of the marine environment, it leads to something known as projectile vomiting, by helping the useful microbes adapt to changes in the level of nutrients, extreme changes in pressure or temperature. Cyanophages also help cyanobacteria by giving them a metallic boost for effective photosynthesis. Killing microbes, the marine phages also convert their biomass into dissolved carbon content, about 650 million tons of it, that other organisms use in the carbon cycle. It has been estimated that about 10% of the world's photosynthesis is controlled by phages. In other words, 1 out of 10 breaths was born out of viruses, possibly creating us, most definitely getting inside us as well as other animals. Viruses reorganize the way that life is played on Earth in ways we can't even fully appreciate, as we don't wholly understand what role the 8% of the viral content in our DNA plays. Viruses have survived eons and eons of meteorite clashes, asteroid collisions that wiped out dinosaurs and plethora of other animal species, and catastrophic events, have borne unbearable climate change, been alongside and within human beings as they watched us evolve from simple self-replicating cells to more complex multicellular animals to other intermediary animal species before turning into the primates that we are. All the while, they've been mutating inside us, molding us, helping fetuses survive inside mothers, or making memories which we then use to build upon music, art, and poetry. They've been warding off infections and regulating much of the air that we breathe, whilst leading to epidemics and pandemics and unbelievable misery. Creation and destruction blends beautifully in them.